welcome to another video. In this one I'm going to make a cake based on the YouTubers Wicked Makers, Jamie and Jay. They have a channel where they make Halloween themed animatronics and builds and all sorts of awesome creepy stuff. So in their honour I'm going to make a cake that is spooky, creepy and Halloweeny. So I'm going to start with a red velvet cake. I'm actually only making the one cake here because I have some already made off screen, actually chilling in the freezer at the moment, so I'm only going to make enough for one deep 7-inch cake. So the recipe is on screen. It's essentially just a chocolate cake that I add some apple cider vinegar to in order to make buttermilk, and then quite a lot of red food colouring. It's not a red velvet unless it stains the inside of your mouth. So as you can see, I've added all of my dries together, whisked them together until they are essentially homogeneous, and then I'm going to begin adding my wet ingredients. So I'm going to start with the oil and the eggs, and I actually should have done this first, but I'm going to weigh out my milk and then add the apple cider vinegar to it and let that curdle. And I should have actually done this before anything else, so it had lots of time to curdle. You can also pop it in the microwave for 10-15 seconds, and that will speed up the curdling and help. Just make sure you don't heat it too much. You want it to be still quite a nice cool temperature before you mix it into the rest of your mixture. Anywho, that's sat off to the side curdling, and I'm going to add some golden syrup and then an ungodly amount of red food colouring. I could not tell you how much red food colouring this is. You measure this with your heart, you measure this with your disregard for eating a large amount of red food colouring. I actually learned not too long ago that the original red velvet cake turned red because something to do with the original cocoa powder and the buttermilk you would add to it made it naturally red. But we don't do that anymore for some reason. We just rely on red food colouring, and my god, look at the colour of that batter. It will naturally darken when it goes into the oven. There is cocoa powder in this, it will darken, but fortunately it will still have that nice red colour. So this is my 7-inch tin. I'm going to line this with my homemade cake release. I say this in every video I use this. This is equal parts Trex, which is vegetable shortening, oil and flour, and it's absolutely brilliant. And then because I'm only putting this in the one tin, normally I would weigh this into separate tins, but it is just the one tin, so I'm just going to dump it all in. And this I then believe went into an oven that was 160 degrees for about 45 minutes. That's only because it was a really, really deep sponge. If it had been 2 separate tins, it probably would have only taken, I don't know, 30 minutes. This is one of those things that you just kind of have to learn as you go along. I tap it on the surface, get the air bubbles out and into the oven, and as you can see, once it's come out, it's a lot darker, but it is still red. Thank goodness. And now I need to level this. So this is my little level. It's just a wire on a handle, and you just basically saw through, set it to the depth that you need. I've already got it preset to the depth that I cut the other cake before, and I'm just gonna basically push this through until I've got my nice level sponges. Because this is a red velvet, it's a lot crumblier than a normal cake. So it does crumble a bit, but it's still good. And honestly, the only people that are going to eat this cake are my family, my poor family. So I don't really mind that much. It's fine. Now please excuse the angle. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to film this. I have a very, very little kitchen, and it's really not the best for filming stacking cakes. I have no idea how to do it better. If I had a kitchen island, I would probably do it on that, but my kitchen is way too small, basically, for the amount of baking and cooking and whatever that I do. If only I were one of these rich, you know, Instagrammers or YouTubers, but I'm not. Anywho, I'm just stacking my cake now. So I've put my first layer on the board, stuck it down with some buttercream, and then spread buttercream in between. And then I'm essentially just going to repeat that until I've layered my entire cake. I believe this ends up being 5 layers of sponge. That's essentially because that's how many layers of sponge I had. Normally I would only stack about 4 layers of a cake, but I just wanted to use up all of my leftovers, and I make this cake a little bit taller. As I'm going, I'm just spreading the excess around. Now, a red velvet and a chocolate cake, at least the recipe that I use, it crumbles like nobody's business. There are crumbs everywhere. That's just how it goes. A crumb coat is absolutely essential for this. They will just shear off the cake as you work on it. It's a really soft one. So yeah, that's why there's crumbs everywhere. I've also discovered that, look at that, look how much bigger that 4th layer is for some reason. I've no idea why. They're all 7 inches, but that one seems to be wider for some reason. And it does end up leaving a bit of a bulge. You can see it here. I've sort of blipped forwards a little bit because this crumb coat went back and forward for ages. But yeah, you can see that it's not exactly in line with everything else. It doesn't matter because I will be putting a final coat on this, and that will be hidden. But yeah, odd. Anyway, once that's crumb coated, that's going to go into the fridge to set. And then I actually lost the footage of me final coating it. I do apologise. But I mean, it's essentially the same as any final coat. I just, covered it in this sort of black greyish buttercream. And now I'm doing what I refer to as a semi-faultline. I'm actually going to do 2 layers of this because I kind of want it to look like slime or something bubbling up from underneath. One of my favourite videos that Jay and Jamie did was of a, like an animated witch's cauldron. And I had an absolute nightmare coming up with an idea for this cake. I've made this cake 2 or 3 times now. Originally, I actually made a sculpted cauldron that animated. It had a turntable inside the cake with bubbles on it that were made of gelatin, and the bubbles rotated. It looked like a cauldron that was stirring cake. But it was absolutely appalling. It was not my best work at all. So I'm not showing you that. And I've redone this one, and it's taken me weeks and weeks to do this. And I'm not 100% happy with how it turned out. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with several aspects. I've actually made some little models, and you will see them in a bit. I think they turned out quite cute considering I'm not much of a model maker. So please be kind, please be gentle. Anyway, so I've done my semi-fault line, my 2-layered semi-fault line, and that's going to go back into the fridge to chill. While that's chilling, I've actually got some spare green buttercream, and I'm going to pipe it into this little hemisphere mould I've got because I want to make some bubbles. And once these holes are filled, this entire mould is going to go into the freezer in order to set these bubbles up, and I'm then going to pop them out and stick them on the cake, and with any luck they will look like, well, bubbles rising up out of the slime. So I just use my palette knife, smear them, flat as I can, and whack that in the freezer. And I found this looked better than piping bubbles on, because you're never going to get perfect little hemispheres when you pipe. So as you can see, look, I popped that out. That's a nice little hemisphere. I think that looks really cool. Now I attached these with a blowtorch because I figured I'll just melt the buttercream a little bit and stick this on. I don't want to smear buttercream on the back or use Trex as a glue. I will just press this into the melted buttercream and it will be fine. it will stick just fine, and it actually adheres really, really well. I go to try to move one of these later on, and I actually had to cut it off because it stuck so well. But anyway, I just popped these all over the front of the cake. You may notice later on, I don't decorate the back of the cake. I didn't see any reason to, really. There was no purpose in sort of decorating the back that nobody would ever see. So I just focus on the front, and whether or not that was the right decision, I think it was the right decision. Either way, that's what I did. So these are my little models. Like I said, I'm not the best model maker. I'm really not, but I'm quite pleased with how they turned out. I'm not very adept at humans, and Jay and Jamie are humans. So yeah, I think they turned out okay for what they are. And yes, I'm aware I have cut the top of the footage off. Jay doesn't have a head at the moment. Jamie won't have a head for a moment. I will fix the footage in a minute, but for now, yeah, that's not the best. It does get better later on. Anyway, they're sat on top of the cake, and now I'm going to start adding probably too many decorations. I modelled these all out of fondant, and originally I was actually going to do this cake as a full fault line, so these were actually going to go around the middle of the cake and then have more buttercream kind of encapsulating them. Look up a fault line, you'll see what I mean. And these sort of poking out of the middle. It didn't work, they were too deep. I've never actually been able to get a fault line cake to work. I just can't do it for whatever reason. So I pivoted, and these ended up sort of just decorating the front, coming up out of the slime almost, and sitting around Jay and Jamie. And that's basically the sum of it. I add little eyeballs, little skulls, little bones, little pumpkins, all sorts of little Halloween-y themed things. And I don't show it, but I did actually make a topper of their logo, and that's essentially it. And yeah, that's it. That's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's not got the best filming, but I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. Any likes, any subscribes, any comments are much appreciated, and I hope to see you in the next one.